The moment everything changed, Natalie Brooks had exactly 10 seconds to save her career. 10 seconds before her boss, Beverly Hammond, the woman who controlled every promotion and every opportunity at Hammond Industries, finished her conversation and turned her attention back to Natalie. And when Beverly turned that attention, she would ask the question. The same question everyone at the company had been whispering about for the past month. So Natalie, is it true you've been seeing Justin's husband? She hadn't. Obviously, she hadn't. Natalie could barely keep her houseplants alive, let alone maintain a secret affair. But someone from the sales department had spotted her leaving the same restaurant as Tyler Walsh on a Thursday evening. Apparently, that was enough evidence to start a wildfire of gossip through the entire company. The fact that Natalie was meeting a client for dinner? Irrelevant. The fact that Tyler was there for a business lunch with his golf buddies? Also irrelevant. The fact that Justin, Tyler's wife, was the daughter of Hammond Industries' largest shareholder? Extremely relevant. 9 seconds. Natalie gripped her glass of champagne. The charity event was in full swing at the Roosevelt Hotel ballroom. String music played softly in the background. Women in expensive gowns laughed politely. Men in designer suits talked about quarterly profits. Everything was perfect and polished and completely suffocating. 8 seconds. She saw Rachel, her best friend and work partner, waving frantically from across the room. Rachel's eyes were wide with panic. Her hands made wild gestures that could mean anything from your dress is tucked into your underwear to the building is on fire. 7 seconds, Natalie dear. Beverly's voice cut through the noise like a knife through butter. Come here. I want you to meet someone important. 6 seconds. The perfect couple in front of Beverly moved away. Beverly stood there in her signature black dress and pearls. Her smile was warm, but her eyes were calculating. She was a woman who had built an empire by reading people, by finding their weaknesses, by knowing exactly when to push. 5 seconds. Natalie took a step forward. Her heels wobbled slightly. Her mind went into complete panic mode. That moment when your brain decides to remember every embarrassing thing you've ever done instead of helping. You solve your current crisis for seconds, actually. Beverly, I can't stay long because... The words died in her throat. Because what? Because she was scared? Because she didn't have a good answer? Because her entire future was about to crumble based on a rumor that wasn't even true. 3 seconds, and then she saw him, the stranger, who changed everything. He was tall with dark brown hair that looked casually perfect. He wore a navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He walked through the ballroom with the confidence of someone who had never questioned his place in the world. He was looking at his phone, completely unaware that he was about to become part of the most desperate plan Natalie had ever conceived. 2 seconds, her brain made a decision. A terrible, impulsive, absolutely insane decision. 1 second. Actually, Beverly, I'm here with my husband. The words came out louder than she intended. Natalie pointed directly at the stranger who was about 20 feet away. The entire area seemed to freeze. People turned to look. The stranger glanced up from his phone, confused. Beverly blinked. Your husband? Yes. Natalie's voice came out 3 octaves higher than normal. My husband. We're married. Very married? Extremely married. The impossible confirmation. The stranger finally located the source of the commotion. He saw Natalie pointing at him like she was identifying a suspect in a police lineup. His eyebrows drew together. He opened his mouth to speak, probably to say, "Excuse me, do I know you?" When his eyes met hers, and Natalie did the only thing she could do, she begged silently with every fiber of her being. Please, she thought, desperately, trying to communicate through sheer willpower alone. Please just play along. Just this once. I'll owe you everything. Just please confirm this ridiculous lie. The stranger looked at Natalie, then at Beverly, then back at Natalie, who was making an expression that probably looked more like a hostage situation than a loving wife. There was a moment. A single moment where Natalie's entire future hung in the balance, where she was certain he would laugh in her face, call security, or simply walk away and let her face the consequences of her impulsive desperation. But then something unexpected happened. He smiled. Not just any smile. A slow, knowing smile. The kind that appeared in perfume commercials and made women buy expensive fragrances they didn't need. The kind that suggested he knew exactly what game was being played and had decided to join in. "Natalie," said, his voice smooth and rich. "Sweetheart, I've been looking everywhere for you." Natalie's heart stopped. Actually stopped for a full second before starting again at triple speed. He walked directly to her. With the ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times, his arms slid around her waist with casual familiarity. He pulled her close against him, and every nerve in Natalie's body screamed red alert. Stranger danger. What is happening? Before she could process anything, before her brain could form a coherent thought, he leaned down and whispered in her ear. His breath was warm against her skin. "You owe me the best explanation of your life, and probably dinner." Then he turned to Beverly, keeping Natalie firmly tucked against his side. He extended his free hand with perfect charm and confidence. "Dylan Pierce," he introduced himself. "Natalie's extremely married husband. It's a pleasure to meet you. The performance begins." Beverly shook his hand. Her expression shifted rapidly through surprise, calculation, and finally, satisfaction. Well, Natalie. I had no idea you were married. Why didn't you ever mention this?" "We like to keep our private life private," Natalie managed to say. Her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. Dylan's arm around her waist tightened slightly. Gentle reminder to stay calm and follow his lead. "Very private," Dylan agreed. His tone was warm and genuine. "We've learned that keeping some things just for ourselves makes them more special." Beverly studied them both. Natalie could practically see the gears turning in her boss's head. Married. Natalie was married, which meant she couldn't possibly be having an affair with Tyler Walsh, which meant the rumor was false, which meant Beverly's entire assessment of the situation needed recalculating. "How long have you been married?" Beverly asked. Her voice had that tone of someone already mentally reshaping the office gossip structure. Natalie opened her mouth, closed it. Her brain had apparently gone on vacation at the worst possible moment. 2 years, Dylan answered smoothly. "We got married in a small ceremony upstate. Just immediate family?" Natalie wanted something intimate. 2 years, Natalie repeated weakly, clinging to any concrete detail while her world continued to spin out of control. "That's so romantic," Beverly said. She actually seemed pleased. "You two must join Gerald and me for dinner sometime." "I'd love to get to know you better, Dylan. We'd be honored," Dylan said with perfect politeness. The aftermath Rachel appeared at Natalie's elbow like a guardian angel in a blue dress. Her eyes were impossibly wide. "Natalie, I need to talk to you. Right now." She grabbed Natalie's arm and started pulling. Then she noticed Dylan. "Wait. Hi. You're new. Dylan Pierce," he said again, clearly enjoying himself. "The husband." Rachel blinked rapidly. "The what?" "I'll explain later," Natalie said quickly, finally managing to extract herself from Dylan's embrace, though he hesitated before letting her go, as if he didn't quite trust her not to bolt. "Beverly, if you'll excuse us." Of course, Beverly said, already turning to find someone else to tell about this bombshell revelation. Rachel practically dragged Natalie across the ballroom. Dylan followed at a casual pace, his hands in his pockets, an expression of absolute amusement on his face. "Bathroom now," Rachel ordered. The bathroom was beautiful. All marble and gold fixtures and mirrors that showed Natalie exactly how panicked she looked. Her carefully applied makeup was smudging. Her hair was coming loose from its pins. Her eyes had that slightly manic gleam of someone whose life had just taken a sharp turn into complete chaos. "Natalie Brooks," Rachel said the moment the door closed. "What in the world was that?" "I can explain. You have a secret husband?" "Technically, I met him about 5 minutes ago." Silence. Complete and total silence. "You what?" Rachel's voice climbed an octave. "I met him 5 minutes ago," Natalie repeated, sliding down to sit on the floor. Her dress pooled around her like a navy blue puddle. I panicked. Beverly was going to ask about the rumor. "I saw a random guy." I pointed, and he just went along with it. The unexpected alliance, the bathroom door opened. Both women froze. Dylan Pierce stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame with that infuriating smile still in place. "Hate to interrupt," he said, "but I thought we should discuss the terms of our marriage before. I have to meet your imaginary extended family." Natalie stared at him. "You can't be in the women's bathroom, and you can't be married to me," Dylan replied smoothly. "But here we are." He walked in and let the door close behind him. "So, Natalie Brooks, want to tell me what I just agreed to?" And more importantly, he crouched down in front of her, his blue eyes fixed directly on hers. "What are you going to do to make this worth my while?" And that's when Natalie realized she had just made a deal with someone who held all the power to either save her career or destroy her life completely. "Worth your while," Natalie repeated. The words felt surreal. Worth your while? Dylan had the audacity to look entertained, like this was all some fascinating social experiment instead of the complete collapse of her professional existence. "Yes," he said simply. "I just became your husband in front of what I assume is your very important boss. Seems reasonable that we establish some ground rules, don't you think?" Making the deal, Rachel stood up from the bathroom floor, brushing off her dress. "I should probably leave you two alone to discuss this insanity, no?" Natalie and Dylan said at exactly the same time. They looked at each other in surprise. "Yeah, I'm staying," Rachel decided, crossing her arms and leaning against the marble counter. "Someone needs to be the voice of reason here. Clearly neither of you qualify." Dylan stood up, checking that the bathroom door was locked. Then he turned back to face them, with the air of someone about to conduct a business meeting. "Okay, let's start with basics," he said. "Why did you do it? Point at a complete stranger and claim he's your husband. I'm genuinely curious about the thought process." Natalie felt her face grow hot. "There's a rumor at work. People think I'm having an affair with a married man. I'm not, but his wife's father is a major investor in our company. My boss was about to question me in front of half the executives, and I just panicked. So your solution was to invent a husband. My solution was to prove I'm married and therefore couldn't be having an affair." Natalie pulled herself up from the floor, trying to salvage whatever dignity she had left. Which seemed like a brilliant idea for about 4 seconds. "Very expensive seconds," Dylan murmured. But there was something in his expression now. Not quite sympathy, but understanding. "Wait," Rachel interjected, pointing at Dylan. "Why'd you go along with it? That's the real question. What kind of person just confirms being married to a random woman?" Dylan's smile shifted. "Maybe I saw an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" Natalie demanded, her anxiety mixing with suspicion. "To blackmail me? To ruin my career? To get what you want out of life?" "Dylan's story to get my mother off my back," Dylan interrupted. Both women stopped short. Silence filled the elegant bathroom. "Your mother?" Rachel said slowly. Dylan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "My mother, Patricia Pierce, has been trying to set me up with every eligible woman in Manhattan for the past 3 years. Every charity event, every business dinner, every family gathering. There's always someone lovely she wants me to meet. It's exhausting. So you thought claiming to be married would solve that problem," Natalie said flatly. "I thought claiming to be married might buy me some peace." Dylan looked at her directly. "And then you pointed at me with that desperate look in your eyes, and I realized we could help each other, help each other." Natalie repeated, "You want us to fake a marriage to solve both our problems?" "Why not? You need to prove you're married to save your reputation. I need to prove I'm married to save my sanity. It's mutually beneficial." Rachel let out a low whistle. "This is either brilliant or completely insane." "It's insane," Natalie said immediately. "Completely insane. Do you have any idea how many ways this could go wrong?" "About 1,000, Dylan admitted. "But do you have a better plan?" Natalie opened her mouth, then closed it. Because no, she didn't have a better plan. Her only option was to admit she'd lied, and probably lose everything she'd worked for when Beverly realized she'd been played. Setting the rules, how would this even work? Natalie asked, hating that she was actually considering this madness. Dylan's expression shifted to pure business mode. "We establish a timeline and backstory. We make a few public appearances together. We sell the image of a happily married couple. After a reasonable amount of time, maybe 6 months, we can quietly divorce. Mutual decision, still friends, very mature. 6 months, Natalie's voice hit a high pitch. You want me to pretend to be married to you for 6 months? Would you prefer we divorce immediately after announcing our marriage? Dylan raised an eyebrow, because that might raise some questions. He had a point. Natalie hated that he had a point. What about logistics? Rachel asked, her practical side emerging. Where do you supposedly live? Together or separate? What if people want to visit? My apartment, Dylan said immediately. It's a 3-bedroom in Chelsea. You can have your own room, obviously. We'll tell people we're still settling in. Chelsea? Natalie echoed weakly. Of course, he lived in Chelsea. I travel frequently for work anyway, he continued. You'd have plenty of privacy. I'm rarely home. What do you even do? Natalie asked. Realizing she knew nothing about this man except that he had excellent taste in suits and questionable decision-making skills. Investment banking. He said simply, mergers and acquisitions. Hence the travel. Investment banking, of course. Because this nightmare wasn't complete without accidentally marrying someone who probably made more in a month than she made in a year. The complication's okay. Wait, Rachel held up her hands. Let's say you two go through with this absolute madness. What about emotional complications? What if one of you actually meets someone and falls in love? You can't exactly date while pretending to be married. It's only 6 months, Dylan said. I think I can manage. Easy for you to say, Natalie muttered. You're not the one whose entire life just got hijacked by a panicked decision. No, Dylan replied. I'm just the guy who voluntarily hijacked his own life to help a complete stranger. Some might say that makes me the crazy one. Some would be right. Rachel confirmed. Natalie walked to the mirror, staring at her reflection. She looked like someone whose reality had just shattered into 1,000 pieces. I need rules, she said finally, turning back to face Dylan. If we're doing this, and I'm not saying we are, but if we are, we need clear boundaries. I'm listening. Natalie started counting on her fingers. 1. Separate bedrooms, no exceptions. 2. No one can know the truth except Rachel. 3. We need a complete backstory that we both memorize. 4. No unnecessary physical contact in private. 5. Either of us can end this arrangement at any time with 2 weeks' notice. Reasonable? Dylan agreed. I have some of my own. 1. We attend family functions together when necessary. 2. We maintain the appearance of a functional marriage in public at all times. 3. No dating other people until after the divorce. 4. We split any costs related to maintaining this arrangement 50-50. No dating other people. Natalie's voice pitched up again. For 6 months? Would you prefer I show up to your office holiday party with a girlfriend while supposedly being married to you? Another point. Another annoyingly logical point. Sealing the agreement, this is insane, Natalie said. But her voice lacked conviction now. This is absolutely, completely insane. Yes, Dylan agreed. But is it more insane than losing your job over a false rumor? The question hung in the air between them. I can't believe I'm about to say this, Rachel said. But he's kind of right, Natalie. This is a disaster, but it might be the only disaster that actually solves your problem. You're supposed to be the voice of reason, Ali protested. I am being reasonable. Reasonably insane, but still. Rachel pushed off from the counter. Look, you already told Beverly. That ship has sailed. Now you either admit you lied and face the consequences, or you commit to the lie and hope for the best. Those are terrible options. Yeah, well, you should have thought of that before you pointed at Mr. Investment Banker here and claimed he was your husband. Natalie looked at Dylan, who was watching her with patient blue eyes, waiting for her decision. If I agree to this, she said slowly, and that's a very big if. What happens when people start digging into our background? Looking for marriage certificates or photos? I have connections who can handle paperwork, Dylan said. Something in the way he said it made Natalie wonder what kind of connections he meant. As for photos, we can create some. We just need to look convincing, Natalie repeated. Right, no pressure there. I'm a decent actor when I need to be, Dylan said. His smile was confident. Question is, are you? It was a challenge. A clear, deliberate challenge. And Natalie, despite every rational brain cell screaming at her to run, felt something stubborn rise in her chest. I can be very convincing when necessary, she said coolly. Then we have a deal? Natalie took a deep breath. This was crazy. This was beyond crazy. This was the kind of decision that future her would look back on and question her sanity. But what choice did she have? Fine, she said. We have a deal. 6 months. Then we reassess. 6 months, Dylan agreed, extending his hand. Natalie looked at it, then at him, then back at his hand. The hand she was about to shake to seal the most ridiculous agreement of her entire life. She shook it. His grip was firm and warm, partners, he said. Partners, she confirmed. In fake matrimony, in mutual destruction, that's the spirit. Meeting the families, they exchanged phone numbers right there in the bathroom. The surreal reality of adding husband to her contacts wasn't lost on Natalie. I'll text you tomorrow, Dylan said. We should meet to work out the details. Coffee, maybe? Make it coffee, Natalie countered. I don't trust dinner. Paranoid. Cautious. Fair enough. Dylan unlocked the door and checked that the hallway was clear. For what it's worth, Natalie Brooks, I think you might have just made my year a lot more interesting. I hate interesting. She replied, you'll learn to love it. And with that infuriating smile, he was gone. Natalie stood there, staring at the empty doorway. So Rachel said slowly, You're married now. Fake married? Still married? To a complete stranger. A very attractive complete stranger, Rachel added. If you're going to fake marry someone, at least you got lucky in the looks department. Natalie let out a slightly hysterical laugh. This is the worst decision I've ever made, probably, Rachel agreed cheerfully. But it's going to make for an amazing story someday, if we survive it. When you survive it? Positive thinking, Natalie. They finally left the bathroom and returned to the ballroom. The charity event was still in full swing. Natalie could see Beverly across the room, already deep in conversation with a group of executives who kept glancing in her direction. Great. The gossip mill was already churning at full speed. The first, performance Natalie. A hand caught her elbow, and she turned to find Dylan back at her side, looking perfectly composed. There you are, he said smoothly. Come on, I want you to meet some people. What are you doing? She started, but he was already leading her across the room. We're married, remember? He murmured. Married couples don't hide in bathrooms all night. We mingle. We look happy. We sell this thing. I hate you, she whispered. Give it time, he whispered back. You might surprise yourself. And as he introduced her to a group of investors as my wife, Natalie and she forced herself to smile and play along. She realized with horrifying clarity that she had just signed up for the performance of her life. 6 months. She just had to survive 6 months. How hard could it be? The answer, she would soon discover, was very, very hard. The comfortable lie 3 months passed in a blur of carefully choreographed performances and increasingly blurred boundaries. Natalie had moved into Dylan's Chelsea apartment with her minimal belongings and maximum anxiety. She'd met his mother Patricia 4 times, each dinner more exhausting than the last. Dylan had charmed her parents so thoroughly that her father actually smiled, which was unprecedented. They'd fallen into a routine that felt dangerously comfortable. Coffee together in the mornings before work, Dylan making terrible jokes while Natalie reviewed case files. Occasional dinners when their schedules aligned. Movie nights on the couch with carefully maintained distance between them. Except the distance was getting harder to maintain. It was. Thursday evening, when everything started to unravel, Natalie was working late at the apartment, spread out on the living room floor with contracts surrounding her like a paper fortress. Dylan was supposed to be in Boston for a meeting, but the door opened at 8:30, and he walked in looking exhausted and frustrated. You're home early, Natalie said, looking up from her documents. Meeting got canceled, Dylan said, loosening his tie. He stopped when he saw her surrounded by paperwork. You planning to work all night?
Probably.
Big presentation tomorrow. He disappeared into the kitchen and returned with 2 glasses of wine. Handed her one without asking. Thanks, she said, surprised. You didn't have to do that, partners, remember? Dylan sat down on the floor beside her, careful not to disturb her organized chaos. Besides, I could use the company. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Natalie working, Dylan scrolling through his phone. It felt natural, easy, like they'd been doing this for years instead of months. Natalie, Dylan said suddenly, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever forget this is fake? The question hung in the air between them. Natalie's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. Sometimes she admitted quietly, more often than I should. Me too, he said. And that's a problem. The threat appears before Natalie could respond. Dylan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his entire body tensed. I need to take this, he said, standing up quickly. It's important. He walked into his bedroom and closed the door. But the apartment walls were thin, and Natalie could hear his voice rising in anger. I don't care what you think you know, Trevor. Stay out of this, Trevor. The name rang a bell. Natalie pulled out her phone and did a quick search. Trevor Ashford, senior partner at Ashford & Associates. Dylan's biggest business rival. Her stomach sank. Dylan emerged from his bedroom 10 minutes later, looking grim. Everything okay? Natalie asked carefully. Fine, he said shortly. Then he sighed. No, not fine. That was Trevor Ashford, your competition. Dylan looked surprised. You know who he is? I looked you up, remember? Due diligence. She set down her wine. What did he want? Dylan sat back down on the floor, closer this time. He knows, Natalie, about us. About the arrangement, the blood drained from Natalie's face. How? I don't know. But he's threatening to go public with it unless I back out of the Thornton deal. The Thornton deal was huge. Natalie knew that much from Dylan's late-night phone calls and stressed expressions. It would make or break his firm's entire year. What are you going to do? She asked. Dylan looked at her for a long moment. I don't know. If he goes public, it ruins both of us. Your career, my reputation, everything we've been trying to protect. The confession's so, we end it now, Natalie said, trying to keep her voice steady. We announced the divorce. Say it didn't work out. We tried, it failed, very sad, everyone moves on. Is that what you want? Dylan asked quietly. Natalie opened her mouth to say yes. Of course that's what she wanted. That was always the plan. 6 months and done, but the word wouldn't come. I don't know, she admitted instead. This was supposed to be simple. Fake marriage, solve our problems, move on with our lives. But it's not simple anymore, is it? No, Dylan agreed. It's really not. They sat there in silence, the weight of unspoken feelings pressing down on them. When did it stop being fake for you? Natalie asked suddenly. Dylan smiled sadly. Probably the first time you laughed at one of my terrible jokes. Really laughed, not the polite laugh you do for other people. He paused. When did it stop being fake for you? The night you stayed up until 3 a.m. helping me prepare for my presentation, Natalie said. You didn't have to do that. You had an early meeting, but you stayed anyway. Because I wanted to, Dylan said softly. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to see you succeed. The unexpected visitor, the doorbell rang, shattering the moment. They both jumped. It was late for visitors. Dylan went to the door and checked the security camera. His expression darkened. It's Trevor. What? Natalie scrambled to her feet. What is he doing here? I don't know, but we're about to find out. Dylan opened the door. Trevor Ashford stood there in an expensive suit with a smug expression that made Natalie want to punch him. Dylan. Trevor said pleasantly, and you must be the lovely Natalie. Or should I say the fake wife? You need to leave, Dylan said coldly. Not until we talk. Trevor pushed past him into the apartment. Nice place. Very domestic. Almost makes me believe the whole loving couple routine. Get out, Natalie said sharply. You're not welcome here. Trevor turned to her with that same smug smile. You know, I almost believed it myself. You two put on a good show. Very convincing. But I have a friend who works at the city clerk's office. No marriage license. No record of a Natalie Brooks marrying a Dylan Pierce. Nothing. Natalie's heart sank. So here's the deal, Trevor continued. Dylan backs out of Thornton. I keep quiet about your little arrangement. Everyone wins. The choice now, Dylan said simply. Trevor blinked. Excuse me, I said no. I'm not backing out of Thornton. And you can tell whoever you want about our arrangement. Dylan, Natalie started, panic rising. Your reputation will survive, Dylan finished, looking at her. You know why? Because I don't care anymore. He turned back to Trevor. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, it started as fake. Yes, we made an arrangement to help each other out. But somewhere along the way it became real. And I'm not going to let you or anyone else use that against us. Trevor's smug expression faltered. You're bluffing. I'm really not, Dylan said. Natalie is the most brilliant, stubborn, infuriating person I've ever met. And I'm in love with her. So do your worst. The apartment went completely silent. Natalie stared at Dylan, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. You're in love with me? She whispered. Dylan turned to face her fully, ignoring Trevor completely. Yes, I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you since you stress-baked 30 dozen cookies at midnight and then tried to hide them from me. Since you sang off-key in the shower. Since you fell asleep on my shoulder during that terrible movie and drooled on my shirt. I did not drool, Natalie said automatically. You absolutely drooled, Dylan said, smiling. And I didn't care because I was too busy thinking about how much. I wanted this to be real. The truth finally told Trevor, cleared his throat. This is very touching, but it doesn't change anything. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway. It changes everything. They all turned to see Jennifer Walsh standing there, holding up her phone. She was Natalie's former college roommate and current investigative journalist. Jennifer. Natalie said in shock, What are you doing here? Rachel called me, Jennifer said, walking into the apartment. Said you might need backup. She looked at Trevor. And I've been recording this entire conversation, including the part where you tried to blackmail Dylan into backing out of a legitimate business deal. Trevor's face went pale. You can't use that. I absolutely can, Jennifer said cheerfully. And I will, unless you leave right now and never contact either of them again. Trevor looked between them all, his smugness completely gone. Then he turned and walked out without another word. The door slammed shut behind him. Jennifer grinned at Natalie. You're welcome. Rachel's downstairs, by the way. She wanted to give you some privacy, but also wanted backup nearby. I'll tell her everything's fine. Thank you, Natalie said, still in shock. Really? Thank you. That's what friends are for. Jennifer headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you two are perfect for each other. Fake marriage or not. And then she was gone too, leaving Natalie and Dylan alone again. The real beginning? They stared at each other across the apartment. So, Dylan said finally, I just confessed my love for you in front of your former roommate and my business rival. You did? Natalie confirmed. Her heart was still racing. That was incredibly stupid, probably, Dylan agreed. Do you want me to take it back? Natalie walked toward him slowly. No, she said, because I'm in love with you too. And I have been for a while now. I was just too scared to admit it. Scared of what? Scared that it wasn't real? That I was reading too much into this arrangement. That you were just being nice because we had a deal. Natalie stopped right in front of him. But I don't want this to be fake anymore, Dylan. I want it to be real. Dylan reached out and cupped her face in his hands. So we make it real? Just like that? Just like that, he confirmed. We've been pretending to be married for 3 months. We know each other's worst habits. We've survived family dinners and charity galas and sharing a bathroom. If we can survive all that, we can survive anything. Natalie laughed, feeling tears prick at her eyes. This is insane. We established that months ago, Dylan said, smiling. The question is, are you in? I'm in, Natalie said, completely absolutely in. He leaned down and kissed her. Not the performative kisses they'd shared for cameras and curious relatives. This was real and deep and full of 3 months of unspoken feelings finally finding their voice, when they finally broke apart. Both breathing hard, Dylan rested his forehead against hers. "So what now?" he asked. "Now," Natalie said. "We do this for real. No more fake marriage. No more arrangements. Just us, Dylan agreed. "Though we should probably get actually married at some point. Make it legal? Are you proposing to me?" "I'm saying that I fake married you 3 months ago, and now I'd like to really marry you." "Whenever you're ready." Natalie laughed again, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Ask me again in 6 months. Let's date first like normal people." "Normal people," Dylan repeated, grinning. "Natalie, we stopped being normal people the moment you pointed at me in that ballroom and claimed I was your husband. Best impulsive decision I ever made." She said. "Agreed," he said. Kissing her again, 6 months later, the ballroom of the Roosevelt Hotel was decorated for another charity gala. Natalie stood in almost the exact same spot where her life had changed. 6 months earlier, but everything was different now. Dylan stood beside her, his hand warm in hers, not performing for anyone, not faking anything, just together because they wanted to be. Beverly Hammond approached them with a warm smile. "Natalie, Dylan, so good to see you both. How are the wedding plans coming?" "Actually," Natalie said, squeezing Dylan's hand, "we've decided we're already married in all the ways that matter. We're just making it official next month. Small ceremony, just close friends and family." "That's wonderful," Beverly said sincerely. "And Natalie, I wanted you to know. The rumor about Tyler Walsh, we tracked down the source. Derek from sales has been let go for spreading malicious gossip." "Thank you," Natalie said, meaning it. Beverly moved on to mingle with other guests. "So," Dylan said, pulling Natalie close, "think you'll ever tell people how we really met?" Natalie smiled up at him. "Maybe someday. When we're old and gray and our grandchildren ask how Grandma and Grandpa fell in love. And what will you tell them? That Grandma panicked at a charity gala and pointed at a random handsome stranger and claimed he was her husband, not knowing who he really was." Natalie paused, but it turned out he was exactly who she needed him to be. Dylan kissed her softly. "Perfect answer." Rachel appeared beside them with champagne glasses. To Natalie and Dylan, she toasted. "The most accidentally perfect couple I know." They clinked glasses, laughing, and as the evening continued, with real friends and genuine smiles, and a future that felt bright and full of possibility, Natalie thought about how sometimes the most desperate decisions lead to the most beautiful outcomes. She'd pointed at a stranger and called him her husband, and somehow, miraculously, impossibly, he'd become exactly that. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to, and that made all the difference.